Welcome to Career and Sports Night. Feel free to, if you can, turn your cameras on. We had a little bit of technical difficulty, but that's okay. I mean, it's 2021 and it's Zoom, so starting a few minutes late, but we're here. We have everyone here. I want to just start off by just welcoming all of our panelists and guests. This event is near and dear to my heart. We've done it for multiple years now because our student athletes and students get an opportunity to hear from professionals and professors and people in the industry that they're interested in. And I know when I was in high school, I wish I would have had this opportunity. I probably would have had a quicker start to my career. So again, my name is Ira Childress. I'm an athletic director and a director of physical education here at Gulliver Prep. And we welcome everyone to this broadcast. There was a lot of interest in this broadcast, and probably because of the great panelists that we have today. In fact, there was so much interest. Only people that you see in the Zoom room here are staff of Gulliver, but all of our students are on, and everyone else that's watching this. This is being broadcast live over YouTube because we could not get everybody into the Zoom. So this is going out with everyone. So we're really excited about tonight. So without further ado, I'm going to have one of our student leaders, and someone is on our Student Athlete Leadership Council, introduce our guest here, our guest panelists, and then we'll get this show on the road. So she's done an outstanding job for us all year and for her 4 years here at Gulliver Prep. Mrs. Porter Bowen. Porter, welcome.
Hello, thank you.
Thank you. Go take it away.
Okay, so first up we have Erin McDermott, who is the Director of Athletics at Harvard. Then we have Jacques McClendon, who is the Alicia Jessup, who is the Associate Professor of Sports Law Marketing at Pepperdine. And then Martin Germond, the Director of Athletics at UCLA. Hello. We also have Cynthia Ferland, the Analytics Expert at the NFL Network. John Devine, the Deputy Sports Editor at the Miami Herald. And last but certainly not least, Dr. Greg Dale, the Director of Sports Psychology at Duke University. Thank you so much for joining us today, all of you.
Thank you, Porter. Outstanding introductions there. Can everybody hear me? Well, thumbs up. Perfect. So I want to start with asking our panelists, kind of a easy question, but a question I think that'll get the this panel rolling right off the bat. And the question I want to ask each of you to answer is, what's the best career advice that you've ever received? What's the best career advice that you've ever received? And we will, Cynthia, I was going to come to you first, right?
I mean, I thought so. I had a hunch. I had a hunch maybe you were going to come to me.
There you go. Obviously, you've had an amazing career in the sense that I think you used to call yourself a math nerd. Now you're a big shot with the NFL Network, which is amazing. You kind of carved out your own career there, in sports analytics. So it may be a little bit different from you, but tell us about the best career advice you received.
Well, I guess the best career advice that I got was to kind of make sure you find great mentors and you find people along the way that can help give you really good advice that makes sense for you. So for me, in my particular case, I'm still a math nerd, and I've combined it with sports in a different way that I would have never anticipated coming out of college. I thought I was going to go to medical school. That didn't work out. So you got to find people who can help shape you and give you the guidance that makes sense to you, and stay in touch with them along the way. So have your personal kind of board of advisors, however you want to, people term it different things, but a couple of different voices that can help you along the way, that, by the way, you end up helping them too. So it's a relationship that's forged based on your career, but it really continues to grow over time. As I've gone from banking to strategy to TV to whatever, I still ask my board of trustees for help all the time. I might annoy them, but I also try to give them some information back to help them as well.
That's great. That's great info right there, Cynthia. Martin?
That's a great question. That's a great way to start this too. Made me think a little bit. I didn't think I'd have to work so hard mentally early on, but I would say get comfortable in your own skin and who you are. I know for me, I spent so many years interviewing or working, trying to be something that I thought others wanted me to be or the situation called for. And I didn't get my first athletic director job. I didn't get some of the things that I've gotten until I started being comfortable being myself and accepting that. So I would tell you, you know who you are, get comfortable with who you are, work on that. That's not something that happens overnight. Some of us battle imposter syndrome and different things. Try your best to get comfortable in your own skin, because when you're comfortable, you can be your best. And I think success will follow that.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. Jess, you want to go?
Oh, me? Alicia?
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Yes. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me tonight. I think my advice would be to be yourself. And that seems like a really obvious and easy piece of advice. But as a professor, what I really encourage students to do is, at the ages between 18 to 22, think about one thing that they would want to do every single day for at least 40 years if they had to do it to be compensated. Some of you will make a lot of money in a short period of time, but most Americans are looking at working about 40 years. And so you need to make sure you like whatever it is that you're doing. And related to knowing yourself is, don't let somebody drive you off your path. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a sports journalist. Obviously, I'm a woman, and I met with a male editor of my local newspaper in Denver, and he gave me every reason under the sun why I should not pursue sport journalism. And so he pushed me off the course. I went to engineering school for undergrad, law school for grad school. It all worked out. But finally, at the age of 27, I returned to my true passion and became a sports writer. I presently write for the Washington Post and The Athletic. But you need to know yourself, and you know what your strengths are, you know what your curiosities are, and to the ability that you're able to at this young age, glue yourself to those and don't let a third party take you off the course. So thank you.
Alicia, sorry about that, by the way. I was looking at the screen name there. Aaron?
Yeah, hi everyone. And Martin, we miss you in Boston. You left just as I arrived, so I'm not going to take it personally, but
I know we're passing through the night,
we did. We were just ships crossing. I wish I could be different, but honestly, the best career advice I got was, it's your journey, and to kind of to thine own self be true. That remember why you chose the path that you did. And it is so true about getting your team of mentors, and they will give you whole lots of advice along the way. And you constantly have to filter that through your own compass, and why at the center you're making the decisions and being true to yourself and being who you are and in the role. I think similar to what others have said, none of us really probably saw the true role models in our positions at the time that we were starting out that were really like us in many different ways. And I think it's really important to feel confident that you can do what you're pursuing, even if you don't see exactly who you are. You might just do it differently and you might have a different voice, but being confident in who you are, and that will really come out and be how you can soar once you kind of start your journey. So just always coming back to that, purposeful intention, and always using your own voice and remembering, who you are and what you're trying to do.
That's great. John?
I hope the fact that I'm about to sound like a broken record just lets you know how true this information is. What I try to tell people, right, is find your why, find your superpower, and know your weaknesses. When your why aligns with what you want to do, you'll never work a day in your life, right? Because you're searching for, there's a difference between working a job and finding your career. Your career will always evolve based upon what your why, because that may change. Your superpower, right? Like we all have unique perspectives, unique strengths that are unique to us. Find that. It may take time, but always do that self-assessment. Because once you find that, right, you'll know how you can dominate your role or dominate where you want to go, because you know what your strengths are. And most importantly, out of all three of those, find your weaknesses, because guess what? A weakness that you know is not a weakness. It's something that you can work around and build and bring back into a strength. So don't want to sound like a broken record, but just the best advice I've ever gotten is always to have that self-assessment, because it's a continuing evolution. So there's that.
Jock, you're my guy, man, but I'm upset with you right now because the Rams took my beloved quarterback from Detroit Lions, Matt Stafford. So, but I'm a Rams fan now because you're there. So
I don't know of any trade. The new league year has not begun, so we'll see what happens when the new league year begins.
I like that. Even the corporate answer. I like that. Next, John. Go ahead, John.
Oh, okay. Because I was like, I'm disappointed because he took my answer. No, the other thing I would say is, as you're doing the self-assessments, we were talking about the ages of 18 to 25. And those are the best chances and the best times to really take chances on what you want to do. As you get older and things like marriage and children, mortgages, those make taking a chance more difficult sometimes. I can't tell you how many people or how many writers I've worked with, and they're like, well, it's like, okay, they want to go out to a startup. Like, I know there are people who joined The Athletic and they were willing to take a chance, and there are people who were not because they were a little concerned about it. And some have regretted it because it was like the best chance to really fly and, be the kind of writer they wanted to be. And they didn't get a chance to because they were worried about so-called sustainability. At this point, all sustainability, as you can tell in the past year, everything's for a loop. You can't totally predict what's going to happen, but you can figure when to take those calculated risks that could pay off in the long run.
That's great. Greg?
Wow, there's nothing like going almost last here. You guys are amazing and say some really great things. And I would echo everything that was said here to you guys that are listening to this. Just a couple other things I would add to that is that I work with college athletes every day, college kids, and there's a lot of pressure to figure out what the heck you're doing right away. And look, it's okay to take time to figure that out, and don't put too much pressure on yourself that you have to know right away what you're doing. As you guys talked about, it's important to explore. I also would tell you that I got some advice one time that I was worrying so much about trying to get people to buy into what I was doing. And one of my mentors at some point said, at some point you got to go with the goers. You got to go with people who are on board with you, and you got to really surround yourself with people who are of like mind and really are willing to not only just challenge you, but also are motivated in some of the same ways that you are. I think that was really good advice for me, because I was spending a lot of time trying to get people to buy in to something, and at some point they weren't, and I was spending all my energy trying to do that. So I would encourage you to definitely think about that too.
Great. I believe we have a question from the students in the chat already. Laz, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. One of the questions we have is, could you guys talk about a time when you failed and how you've grown to no longer be scared of failure?
That's good. any panelists can take that one.
I'll take it. I think you come to find out, right, being an NFL player in that transition from playing to not playing, right? You're in this box that, you're this player and you can't transform to be to the corporate world, be to the entrepreneurial world, whatever it is, right? There's a lot of things that you have to overcome. And so what I guess I would perceive as a failure is as you're reaching out and you're trying to procure these jobs, right? Like your resume isn't what everybody else has been working for 10 years. And so you're having to learn how to package yourself in such a way that, you're going for not an entry-level position, yet you have probably an entry-level resume. And so, some of the best things that I found out during this time is get comfortable being uncomfortable. That's where the growth happens. And so before I got this job with the Rams, it was probably 3 no's somewhere else. But because I had a network, because I had people I could lean on, and because I was able to get that feedback and figure out what I need to work on, you got comfortable being uncomfortable. And guess what? That's going to be life as it goes on, as your career evolves, as life evolves. You're going to have to always overcome something. So I guess is failure is not failure if you learn from it, because there's always a lesson to be learned in it. So
Well, I got a good one because I went on TV at age 31 for the first time ever, and I was terrible. So I wouldn't say it was like a failure, but it wasn't great. And I got a chance to, so my path's a little different because like there weren't a lot of people, there still aren't, who talk about analytics. And when Paul DePodesta, who people mostly knew from Moneyball, when the actual Paul DePodesta got hired by the Browns, ESPN, where I was working at the time, they're a little like, well, we don't know how to handle this analytics stuff. And so I got a chance to talk about it, and my passion and my knowledge of the subject were good, but I was miserable on TV. So I had to learn how to be a better speaker, how to understand I had never grown up in broadcast. I had none of these experiences. So I had to go find a different path and figure it out. I took some improv lessons. I took voice lessons. I kind of went backwards. I started writing. Bless you for being a writer. I hate writing. I'm a math person, like, ugh. So I forced myself to do all these things that felt like, just like you were saying about being comfortable with being uncomfortable. Like there are fewer things. See, I don't even speak English now. There are fewer things less comfortable than watching yourself back on TV, especially when this is a young woman's world. 31's very, very old to start on TV for your first time. So, I got a chance because of my passion, and then I got a chance to keep working at it and improve and grow. And 7 years later, whatever, because I worked hard at this stuff, but also because I was passionate. But that felt like failure. My Twitter feed was an abysmal place for quite some time. So gonna work through it, get uncomfortable. You can get past it.
That's great.
I'd love to.
Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, I'd love to chime in here on this piece. And what's interesting is anyone that I've ever worked with that's considered to be great at what they do have absolutely failed many times. And I would say be careful about catastrophizing failure because failure is a part of that process. I know that sounds really cliche, and failure is a part of trying to pursue greatness. And I would also say that many people, me included, at some level are afraid to fail. Being afraid to fail can drive you, it can push you, it can challenge you to be prepared. And I think you got to own that and just learn how to manage that and learn how to recognize if you're afraid of failure and you're going in for an interview or you're going in to try to get a job or do something, and that fear of failure is really causing you a lot of anxiety. You got to name it and own that and just remind yourself, hey, you're really good when you do this. So go do this now. And so be careful about catastrophizing. It is a part of the process. You got to be willing to take chances.
That's good. John, go ahead.
Yeah, you have to learn to grow from whatever it is as well. I think I heard someone else say they started as an engineering major, and I did as well. And 8 o'clock calculus classes for your first-time college student is not the brightest thing you can ever do. And it was one of those things where, and God bless them, they tell you, hey, your math SAT is a little better than your English SAT. You should do something in math and science, which is great. But I knew sports. I played sports. I was like, I wanted to do that. And I put it aside and I put it aside. And as far as engineering, I didn't fail out of college, but I failed from the standards that I had set for myself. And a friend of mine who wrote for the paper, EdSep at UCF, he was having he wanted to break into the paper there, but he was having a hard time with actually knowing the ins and outs of sports. And I was helping him write. He was like, why don't you just write it? And so I started writing it, and that jump started over there. And even when I left Orlando to come here, like the first 6 months, my first 6 month review was horrible in part because I didn't trust myself into what I wanted to do. And so seeing that review and seeing that failure made me push harder to do what I wanted to do. And it really gave me a jump start. I think the professor said, don't catastrophize failure. He's so right. Learn from it, pick up what you can from it, and then push forward and correct what you can. Because even if that isn't the place for you, those lessons will still be learned somewhere else.
That's great.
I want to jump in real quick and piggyback on that. Another thing too, I believe that you have to look inward and really criticize or critique your own folly or where you made a mistake before you can do that to others. A lot of us, I'm hardest on myself. We actually had a challenge earlier this week at UCLA that we worked through. And I before I gave any direction or feedback to anyone on my team, I was hard on myself. I literally wrote down what are some of the things that I should have done that I missed or I should have checked in on that I did not. And so that's the only way that I can learn. And I can't give that feedback to my team if I'm not willing to embrace the feedback and get better. You grow from failure. You grow from coming up short. And we're all going to come up short. We're all human. So as long as you understand that and don't be afraid of that, then that allows you to look inside, look inward, and you get better. And I embrace that. So I think you've got to embrace it. There's got to be a level of comfort. It's like someone said, being comfortable with being uncomfortable. You got to have a level of comfort of looking inside and critiquing yourself before you can do that to others.
That's great. That's great. The last, I think we got another one for the students. Go ahead.
Yes, one of our viewers would like to know what would be the best avenue to acquire internships.
Okay, great. Aaron, you want to start out with this one?
Sure. There's not necessarily a magical answer, but it's really, so much is going to be the intentions that you have. So, being on the lookout yourself, being proactive about what opportunities might be out there, trying to figure out what it is you're trying to really do and target those things and make all the connections you possibly can to help you land one of those things. So, my first internship opportunity was coming out of grad school. I was, sport management in grad school, needed an internship to finish my degree. And so I was in a position in that place to, use resources at UMass where I was, and people that I knew as an athlete that I connected with in college to figure out how to get that first internship. And it worked out, but there's different paths for everyone. And it really is trying to help yourself as much as you can with the connections that you're making, using the resources that you have built and being proactive about, the opportunities that are out there. So the experiences you can build along the way with volunteering in things or being involved in things that can at least build up, the interest in you, I'd say is really important. But it's not easy. It's competitive, and you have to try to set yourself apart with kind of the natural connections that you have and the experiences that you're building on, and then trying to be intentional with the focus is the best advice I can give, I think.
That's great. Alicia?
Awesome. So I've been a professor for 8 years, and I've helped hundreds of students navigate the internship space. And to Aaron's point, there are some really great resources that are freely and widely available that if you're looking for an internship in the sport industry, these are your home bases, if you will. They're teamworkonline.com, Front Office Sports, where if you're serious about working in sports, you should be reading this website every single day. They have a job email that they blast out every Wednesday. And then everybody should join this website because I'm on the advisory board and it's called Openly. And so we are trying to revolutionize the job process in the sport industry. But one thing I think most students could improve on, and it's awesome because you're in high school. One theme that emerged from Aaron's statement was networking, networking, networking. And my failure was networking. So in law school, I thought I was crushing the network game. I was in Los Angeles. I was rubbing elbows with celebrities, going to red carpet events, meeting bigwigs, but I wasn't really building relationships. And what you have to understand is in hyper-competitive industries like sport, people like John, Jock, Aaron, Martin, Cynthia, Ira, Greg, they're getting hundreds of emails every single week from people just like you. And so you have to figure out what you can do to differentiate yourself. So to Cynthia's point earlier, it becomes a two-way relationship where this person is going to take time out of their day, build a relationship with you, mentor you, but you're also contributing something to their life. You're not just sucking their time. You're providing something of value to them. So I think the challenge for all of you is what value can you bring? What unique knowledge do you have? What unique passion do you have? What problem can you solve for me, the person you want to intern for, so that Martin wants to actually get to know you and possibly bring you on to a staff? So it's just a shift in the mindset of, instead of expecting people to give you a job, you're creating value so that people have no choice but to give you a job.
That's great info. By the way, I love that view of Pacific Coast Highway behind you there. Lisa, go ahead, John.
I think a lot of people try to zoom out, right? Look 30,000 feet up and say, hey, what all internships are everywhere, when especially with you all at a prestigious institution like y'all, zoom in. You're at Gulliver Prep. You're in one of the best private schools in the country, right? And the network of people, of parents, of alumni that go there, start there first. And then when you go to college, and I know this is a sports panel, if you want to work in sports, start with the college that you go to. While I played, I was starting the SEC, and in the summer I was interning for the athletic department, knowing that I wanted to be in athletics when I was done playing, right? And work for free while you can, but don't make the internship process too big. Don't zoom out, zoom in, and tap into what you know. And you all have a distinct advantage being at an institution like you're at, with an unbelievable network that you can zoom in and actually tap into that network.
That's great. John, go ahead.
I would also say that early on, there's no task too big or too small. When I first started working in a newspaper, we used to take all the high school results on the phone. And when you do that, it's a pain in the neck. It seems like menial work. You're asking, okay, who beat who? As you know, in South Florida, we have about 200 high schools in the area. And in Orlando, we had about 100, 150. So you're taking all these calls from coaches, like your coaches here, from each sport throughout the high school season. But what it does is, and what you didn't learn is, it teaches you how to write, it teaches you how to organize, and it teaches you how to go throughout the business itself, even though you don't realize it. I did that for 2 or 3 years. And then all of a sudden, when I graduated, I already knew how putting a newspaper together worked and how putting a sports section together worked. And I may have learned more about putting a sports section together there than I did in my classes at UCF. And that's no knock on that. It's just, until you're immersed in it, sometimes you just don't really see how valuable it really is. So if you get an opportunity to get that foot in the door, and at that time it was $8 an hour. So when we were talking about for free, that was practically for free, because that was almost what my gas was to go back and forth. But I learned a lot more, and you'll be surprised. A lot of the people I've worked with through the years started that way. It's great to get the great big internship that you're coming straight from college and you've worked for the whole summer. But a lot of the really successful people have gotten their hands dirty from the beginning.
More great advice. So another question, looking back at your career, was there a specific moment or experience that you felt was pivotal to your success today? So was there a specific experience or moment that you felt was pivotal to your success today? Go ahead, Greg.
So I don't know that I would say there's one moment, but applying for the job here at Duke, when I finished my doctoral work, there were not many opportunities. And when I finished my work there, I thought Duke was the perfect place for academics and athletics. And I applied, or I wrote the senior associate athletic director at the time and told him how awesome I was and told him how wonderful I could be for all of his coaches and student athletes. And he was nice enough to write back and say thanks, but no thanks, and appreciated the offer. And I went on to go to another place and begin working there. But I wrote him once a year, updating him on where I was and what I was doing. And ultimately, he became the athletic director, and they decided they wanted to hire somebody full time. And I'm the guy ultimately that he thought of. And so I was very fortunate to have that opportunity. But I would just say persistence is really important. If you have a dream and you have a goal in mind, man, you gotta stay with it and be persistent with it, because I think ultimately that'll pay off for you.
Okay. Others on that question? Was it an experience or a moment? Go ahead, Lisa.
I think betting on myself was really critical. So contrary to like the internship conversation we just had, sometimes you're not going to get the internship or the job you desire. And I think something schools could do better, you go to a really good school, so I'm sure your school's doing it, is teach students entrepreneurship. And instead of waiting for somebody to give you the job that you want, how can you create the opportunity for yourself? So I was a litigator in Orange County, California at the start of the economic recession, dying a slow death because that's a really boring job. Some of your parents might be litigators, and I'm sure they don't particularly love it. And I said I could keep going like this and I could be unhappy, or I could do what I wanted to do, which was be a sports writer. But people like John were not going to hire Alicia Jessup in 2011 because she had zero experience. She had zero network. She had zero internships. And so I had to create the internship for myself. I learned web design. I created a website called rulingsports.com. I knew nobody in the industry, but by virtue of creating that website, it gave people a reason to connect with me because suddenly I could give them publicity. And what you'll learn about sports is people love talking about themselves. And so I utilized that to build my network. So don't let somebody not giving you a job or somebody saying, well, you don't have the right experience, stop you. A lot of people let that stop them. Instead, say, okay, how can I create this opportunity for myself? And especially for women don't pursue entrepreneurship based out of opportunity at the rate men do. And so if we want to see more equality in wealth, that's something that needs to pivot.
Go ahead, Aaron.
I'll just add that I think my moment that's coming to mind anyway actually goes back to a bit of the failure comment, because it was the first job I went for at Princeton, and I was not successful in that search. I was not hired. But a year later, the athletic director contacted me and said, hey, we've got this other opportunity, and people really liked you. It just didn't work out. Would you think about this one? And what really spoke to me in that was the lesson that no matter the situation, and when we even have failures, that how you behave in those failures and how you respond to those failures, and just again always being who you are in those moments can open other opportunities. And when I got the call that I didn't get the job, I didn't just hang up the phone. We had a good conversation. I asked some questions and obviously got a call back a year later, and then that worked out. And I think getting that job at Princeton the second time around really was what catapulted me further into my career. So just that lesson of, even in your failures, they can pivot to successes. It's really the impressions that you make on people that make a big difference.
That's good. All right. What's the best way for students to find mentors?
I can take that.
Go ahead.
Find people that you have things in common with, that you genuinely have a connection to. There's so much information from LinkedIn to, I mean, most people who work in sports have a biography somewhere that's printed on somewhere that you can find on the internet, and you can see, she went to Northwestern and has a data science degree or whatever. And you can find things that you authentically have in common, because that will help bridge the gap between what you're asking them for and what they can give you. Sometimes I get like a lot of emails that are really what I would call like, they actually make me feel bad because I can't help. They'll email me to my NFL email because it's easy to guess. And they say, Cynthia, I'm graduating on Friday and my mom says I need an internship on Monday. Your job looks like something I'd like to do. Give me an internship. And first and foremost, I don't have an internship. That's not something I don't have one, and I can't offer it to you. Second, it feels very demanding. And I maybe like a 15-minute conversation and say, I'm really interested in math and sports, because I will take the time to speak to people if they ask me. But if they demand something, and I know it comes from nerves and lack of experience, but that email is the impression that I get from you. I don't know anything else about you. So being thoughtful in your approach. People are very easy to find and track down. And most people who work in sports are team-oriented human beings. They want to help you, but you have to give them a little bit of do a little bit of homework and find some common threads. You have something in common with everyone. And if you're interested in their job, you probably have more in common than you think. So just be a little thoughtful in your approach and give them something that they can do. Cynthia, 15 minutes of your time, I'll be yes, of course. And I usually end up talking to you for 45, right? But if you're coming and being like, I graduated Friday, I need the internship now, mom said, can't help you.
Yeah, that's great. Go ahead, Martin.
Let me add to that. At least in the college athletic space, as far as mentorship, in my opinion, you shouldn't start at the top, and you should start with like a senior staff or people that are management leadership level in the organization. One of the mistakes I see, I have so many people reach out to me and say, "Hey, you're the athletic director at UCLA. I want you to be my mentor." And I've got a lot of things I've got to do. But the reality is my executive team, that's 6 people that work closely with me, understand the department, understand nuance, have had their own careers, maybe have more time or have some interest with you. That's where you should start. That's who you should email and say, hey, can I have a 30-minute conversation? And it's surprising to me how many people start right at the top. You can learn a lot. And as far as jobs, middle management or leaders within my organization have a better pulse for entry-level jobs than I do. I don't know what entry-level jobs are available. I have no idea. I have no clue. But I can tell you the person that reports to me or the person that reports to that person, they have a handle in the conference. They know what's going on. And so that's one of the mistakes. If all the students that are listening, look at the website, don't start at the top, and try a few people. That's not our issue to email 3 or 4 people, change a little bit here or there if it's the same organization, and say, hey, I'd love a 15. And I like what Cynthia said, make it a small amount of time. Don't say I'd like an hour Zoom. I had somebody DM me, can I get an hour Zoom? Can I get a 45-minute conversation? And I'm like, do you know, really? No. 10 minutes, 15 minutes most. Say, hey, can I grab you for 10 minutes? Thinking about my career, wanting to run something by you. And more times than not, that would be successful. So limit the time and think strategically. Don't start at the top, start somewhere else in the organizations that people may have more time or have the ability to know from a job perspective what's available or what's coming available.
That's great. Jock, we spent many hours back in the day talking about this. Do you want to chime in?
Yeah, backstory for me, rookie year, we go lockout, and I decide, man, I'm not just going to sit at home and play Xbox all day. I interned under Ira for the entire lockout for like 4 or 5 months for free. Would work out in the morning and come work at the office for 6 to 7 hours, right? And it's crazy the relationships I still have from that experience. And what you love about that experience is that I still something sticks with me to this day, right? Like when you're looking for mentors, think to be transformational, not transactional. If you're asking for somebody to be your mentor in the first conversation, I can promise you it's probably gonna be 95, 99% no chance. So build rapport, right? Like, I don't want to get to know you if you don't want to get to know me. So don't come with the ask, just come with the conversation. And guess what? Sometimes it'll be 10 minutes, sometimes it'll be 30 minutes. So, that's one thing I never forget. Ira challenged me while I was his intern to just reach out to people, right? And that's what I talked about earlier, be comfortable being uncomfortable, right? And it's crazy the amount of conversations and relationships I've gained because I've stayed in contact from that moment, my rookie year in the league, to now. And look where it's at. Like, I'm able to transition from the league. I retired in January of 2017, and I got the job with the Rams May 2017, and it's a blessing. But it's because I had people help me. We all need help, but to get that help, you have to build relationships. Everything we do is relationships. Social capital is everything. But when you go and approach these conversations, work on being transformational, not transactional. Because if you ask me for an ask for the first conversation, I can promise you it's going to be a no if I don't know you. That's just the reality of it. So just work to get to know people, build rapport, and it'll go a long way.
And by the way, Jacques was an amazing intern when we were at the NCAA. He did everything. I kept trying to see if he wouldn't go and what he wouldn't do. He was on it, and now he's a big shot, and I'm proud of him. Keep going, man. Aaron, you want to jump in?
Okay, remind me what we're answering here because I've been just listening.
Now we're talking about mentors.
Mentors.
Finding mentors, and I know that
finding mentors. Yeah,
that's a struggle for some young people to find mentors.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with, starting at a level that isn't necessarily the top. Like, I think if you have a connection to someone who's at the top, perfect. You can certainly pick their brain. You can, ask the questions. And I think using the amount of time is a great starting point to say, hey, I just need to grab you. Could I grab you for 10, 15 minutes? I think if you're kind of going in more cold, that the idea of looking at layers below is really great advice, because they're the people who are going to are more close to the experience that you're trying to get to. Will be able to point you in a better direction, and just being pretty thoughtful about where the area is that you're really looking at, what seems interesting to you, and then reaching out to those people to say, what you're doing seems really a direction I'd like to go. And could we just connect for, a half hour at most, 20 minutes or whatever, when you're dealing with kind of that layer of a person that's not quite at the top. The other thing I would say is you're just going to, whether it's in a forum like this, you're going to see people talking at different things. You're going to be able to tune into different things, and you're just going to naturally feel like, what, I kind of can connect with that person. Like, that person resonates with me. There's something in what they're saying that, I can identify with. And I would say follow that instinct too. I think these things have to develop organically. And when you find those connections with people, it's really great to follow up on that and just kind of say, hey, could we just grab some time? I just really liked what you had to say. It feels like it's kind of the core of how I think about things, and would like to explore this whole area a bit more. You also need mentors who aren't exactly like you, and that might think very differently too. So think about that. But I think it's, when you're kind of starting out and you're just trying to make some connections, there's certain people that, you're going to, as I said, just maybe feel more connection to, and just following on that. Because as been said, I get those all the time too, like Martin said. I mean, I get a ton of those. Hey, could we just talk? And I try to do as many as I can. So, I think people are trying to be helpful too. And we know we were all there. We were all you. And so, we do, take seriously giving back. It's just, there's only so much time in the day. So, don't take maybe not hearing from someone right away. Follow up. Like, I've had people have to contact me a couple of times before we can make a connection.
That's great. Great.
Can I take a contrarian view? So a lot of my research deals with networking and how people get promoted in the sport industry. And there's data that shows how someone becomes an athletics director, and we have two here, is partially reliant on their network. And so I want to echo what Aaron and Martin say about not going straight to the top, but you do need a mentor who's going to advocate for you in the workplace. And this probably isn't something you're thinking about when you're 14 to 18 years old, like you all are, but you need someone who, when you get into that job, when there are decisions being made about who's getting promoted, they're saying your name. And so there's some strategy involved in who you build this mentorship relationship with. You kind of learn how to do this when you get a little bit older and you gain some experience, but you want to build the relationships and invest time with people who can elevate your career. So it's a much longer conversation, but just 2 cents.
Mhm. That's really good.
If I could just add on to that from someone who's dealt with this on the other side of it, there are 2 kinds of people. As you're doing mentorship, there are a couple things I would say. Try and match someone with your ambition level a little bit, because you have people who are go-getters, who they may not be where you're aspire to be now, but you can see that they're on that path and they're real go-getters. And the same people who are in the room, they mention that person's name, and guess what? That person mentions your name. The other person, when we're talking mid-management as well, there are 2 versions of mid-management. There's the wise person who knows where all the bodies are buried, so to speak, who knows everybody's name and who is trusted from the person in charge, like the athletic director. There are certain people in middle management, and if he or she says that person's the person for you, they're going to go with it right away. And if you make connections like those, and they teach you, and they accelerate your pace far further than what you could do on your own. And that's really the point of mentorship, is to help you understand where you want to go and how you can get there.
Hey, can I just add one thing real quickly?
Yeah, go ahead.
These guys it's really all great advice. I'm not going to give you any more advice about finding the mentorship, but some advice I'm going to give you: once you do that, be really attentive and learn the things that when you ever get in that position, not necessarily, you might not know the technical aspects of it or be an expert in that area, but how do they treat people? How do they interact with people that report to them? And what kind of leader are they? And pay attention to that and note that, man, you know what, if I'm ever in that situation, I'm absolutely going to handle this situation that way. You can tell how people respond to them, or, boy, that's something that I'm going to really try to do differently, because, man, they blew that person up in front of everyone and totally embarrassed them. And you could just see that was not a great way to handle that. So when you get there, there's learning opportunities, whether you have a positive experience or more of a negative experience. You can absolutely learn from both of those.
That's good. Question: how important is your choice of a college major as it relates to your career? Not at all.
I say next question. Not at all.
Not at all.
Let's
Not
get
at
another
all.
one in.
Not at all.
That's great. So next question: what skills and intangibles are you looking for when you're hiring young people? Skills and intangibles.
I know for me, when we're hiring, the first thing I'm looking for, one, is range. You come in, we're in a day and age where you have to cross collaborate, work with everyone, and be able to do it at a high pace and at a high clip. I want you to be able to, what I call it in LA, right? I want you to be able to go to lunch in Beverly Hills and in Compton, right? I want you to have a range where you can, so many different personalities, genders, race, religions, because the workforce is so much more diverse these days. I want you to have range. And the second for me, in terms of is adaptability. The temperature is always going to be changing. So the what we're working on is changing, what the objective is. It's a new league year. We got a new team. We got new objectives from our general manager, GM president, things we need to execute. Can you adapt? And you'll find that out early. So those would be a couple things I'd be looking for.
All right. Aaron or Martin, you want to touch on this? What are you looking for?
Yeah, I can go first. I would definitely echo that what Jacques said. I would say work ethic for sure. I think, starting out, you have to show that you're willing to put in the time, you're willing to put in the work, and you're not going to complain about it. And, a lot of times kind of that road to the next thing, because when you start out, you want to be doing the best job you can in your job and not be already thinking about the next thing, but you want at the same time be able to position yourself well for that next thing. And the way to do that is to show the people around you that you have a really great work ethic, and you're also someone that people are going to like to be around. People like working with people they like, and who are going to, be people they can rely on, that aren't too high maintenance for them, that, are able to be pretty self-reliant and, bring things to the table, that if you not always bringing problems, but bring some solutions to the problems when you have those conversations. So, I think someone who certainly, shows that curiosity, ambition, but, be good in where you are. Like, know that, it takes a little time to get the experiences to move on, but you absolutely want to set yourself up for being somebody when you have those experiences, and has been said before, that when an opportunity comes up to maybe advance, that you're someone people are talking about because you've shown your abilities, you've shown your value, you've shown that you're someone that they want to keep around and not see leave. So, I think it's kind of the old-fashioned things, but they're really, meaningful in just creating the best situation for yourself, and be willing to take on some things that are outside maybe of the job that you were hired to do, because that'll show your real interest in, expanding and growing, and maybe taking on the next position that requires more responsibility.
I just got one quick to add to that. What I hire, energy. I'm a big energy person, passion. When you walk in a room, when you walk on a Zoom, do you bring energy to that, or do you take from it? Be a giver, not a taker. And then hunger. I hire hunger. How bad do you want it? What are you willing to do? What are you willing to sacrifice? Energy and hunger are the two most important things to me.
That's great. Go ahead, John.
I'm looking at our panel here, and one thing that stands out, and Cynthia comes to mind, and that is to be different. And when I say be different, I mean that analytics is something, like we said, 5-7 years ago, we weren't talking about as much. And last year we had someone with Miami Heat who did analytics and shot chart. And if you went to the room and asked me and you asked someone who worked with the Miami Heat, this was not going to be the person you would immediately come to mind. But guess what? The Miami Heat's data-driven analytics is part of the reason they made it in the NBA Finals, part of the reason that they thrived in the bubble. The fact that sometimes you have to take a different path that no one else is taking stands out. Don't try and stand out just for the sake of it. It's almost like when you guys are, you're filling out college applications and people say, oh, do something to stand out, and you do something that's inauthentic. And then when you go for your interview, people can smell that. So what you want to do is you're standing out because that's something you're driven to do. I think I'm confident in saying Cynthia said she was a math geek. Okay, so she had those numbers down pat long before that path towards analytics was there. But she found the perfect fit of what she loves from a math side and from a sports standpoint. So that's what I would say.
That's great. And Cynthia was an outstanding soccer player, so I don't want to make it sound like she was an athletic. So go ahead, Cynthia. You want to?
All I was going to say was the authenticity part has to be true, because I got a chance, because I got a little lucky that something I loved happened to go on TV. I was in the right place at the right time, and I had the right background. I kind of downplay, but I do have a degree from Northwestern, a master's of predictive analytics, and I have an MBA. And I worked for some high profile companies, and, I wasn't just doing nothing, right? I had been working and writing computer code and talking to coaches and networking and being told I was awful and didn't know anything about football. I didn't know anything about basketball, for years. And I just still loved it, and I got a chance to grow on TV because they could see I brought the passion. I brought a lot of energy to the Zoom and to the room, apparently. And so I was able to, show my passion and again, there was some luck involved, but I had been doing years of prep in this, not knowing it was going to happen. And then just saw the opportunity because my mentors and my people were like, say yes, figure it out. Like, you're different. Like, take a chance. What's the worst could happen? You go back to banking, like, and make more money. Like, it's not that big of a deal. So
that's great. Greg, any thoughts on this?
No, I don't really think I would add anything to that. Sorry, I think that's all really good advice, actually.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, a couple more here. Here is from a social media standpoint, how can social media benefit students in college and beyond?
I'm going to take the adverse path on this.
Okay.
I think there's a lot it can do to hurt you. I have interviewed numerous individuals, and the first thing I'm going to do is do a spot check of your Twitter, Instagram, what you've been saying, because it's going to tell me a lot. You all with Gen Z have an unbelievable opportunity and a platform to be empowered through social media. You have a voice that millennials and others did not have, but you got to use it wisely, choose it wisely. So you definitely have the opportunity to brand yourself and do things that show you're doing great things. But on the flip side of that, make sure you're doing things that people can't judge you before they get to know you, because it can get really dicey on social media, especially through those transformative years of high school and college.
or you could use it, like, I think for me, it's been like, go look at my Twitter. You'll see countless videos about Patrick Mahomes. I mean, obviously it's hard to edit those if you don't have that at home, but you can also use it to showcase what you can do. If you love math and you want to show that you're looking at, like Tableau, nobody knows what that is, right? But whatever, silly math stuff that looks awesome. You could post that. And that could be like a mini version of your LinkedIn, right? It could be much more visually pleasing. It's interesting, so you could, to me, it's social, but I like it for what my work is, right? I think it's a great way for me to be able to, like, I talk about math. It's not super exciting for everyone always, but you can make awesome videos and stuff. And I use it as part of my resume. So it's all how you view it and how you intend to do it. So it can be a positive. It's a lot of work to do it that way, but it's a better path.
Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, so I can tell you, I don't know what I'm doing here because I forgot to lower my hand. He keeps calling on me because I didn't have my hand down. But I do want to talk about this one. So as somebody who works in college every day, you have a brand, and I know people have talked to you about that. Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, says your brand is what other people say about you when you're not in the room. And if you think about it, most jobs you ever get in your life, you're not in the room when they make that decision. Whatever college you go to, when they decide to offer you a scholarship or not, or you get into that school, you're not sitting in the room when they make that decision. It's based on your brand. It's based on what you project, what you put out there. So just be really smart about that and think about what you put out there. And I'm going to lower my hand if I haven't done that. I'm going to make sure I do that now. Yep. There we go. I'm lowering my hand now. There we go. All right.
Think of it like a tool, and it's exactly what Cynthia said. So another tool that we're all familiar with is the hammer, right? And the hammer serves a really important tool to put nails into walls. Ideally, you're not taking that hammer and hitting yourself with it. And so you can either use social media as a tool to advance your purpose, or you can use it as a tool to hammer yourself and destroy that purpose. We're living in an age, especially for those of you who are athletes, where a brand is everything. The NCAA model might be changing, where college athletes can profit off of their name, image, and likeness. You have to have some sort of brand, but you need to stick to what that is on social media. And hopefully it's a brand that you'll be proud about when your brain finishes fully developing at the age of 25. That's one of the sad things about the human body, is the last part of our body to fully develop is the frontal lobe of the brain. And the frontal lobe is responsible for decision making. So just remember that before you tweet or do anything if you're under the age of 25. And even some of us need to keep doing that if we're older than 25, like myself. So good advice.
That's great. Anybody else on that?
I'll tell you one thing because I have to leave. The reason I have to leave is I have to go prep to be able to do a really cool interview about math and John Harbaugh. So it's very cool for the Big Data Bowl. That's something the league puts on. I have to go do a pre thing for that. But thank you for having me. But like you'll see, you won't see me being like, here's me really pretty behind the scenes. First of all, I look awful, but whatever. The second part is it's going to be about the math. It's going to be about how John Harbaugh uses analytics. And I'm really excited to ask him why Jim Harbaugh never goes for it on fourth down. It seems unconscionable for me that they're so different, but ultimately use those tools so that you can get to the thing that you want. And like you just said, use the hammer to help you, and reach out to me with something I can help you with if you need anything. So,
Cynthia, you're the best. Thank you.
thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Last question for everyone here. Can you give one thing about why you love what you do? Why do you love what you do? We'll end it on that.
Ira, can I take it a different way there?
Yeah, go ahead.
So everybody listening is what, 14? How old? What's the age group?
Yeah, 14 to 18.
Okay, I'm gonna just give you what I think you need to hear from 14 to 18 right now. However you think it's going to go, your path, it's not going to go the way you think it is. You have to understand that. You have to have a level of flexibility, nimbleness, and understand whatever 14, 15, 16, 17, you think it's going to be this, chances are it's going to be like this, right? A lot of times people say 90% of it is showing up. I believe 90% of it is holding on to the rope when others are letting go. You got to see it through. You got to hang on. You're going to get no's. You heard a lot of people on here talk about the pivotal moment was not success. It was failure. It was not getting something. It was being turned down. And what that did, that was seeing it through and staying with it, taking it in stride, having grace, remembering this is a small world. You never know who you interact with and who you connect might come back. The person that actually recommended me to search firms for my first couple athletic director jobs was not my own boss. It was somebody I interviewed with that I didn't get the job. He thought I did a good job, and he's the one that put my name forward years later. So you just never know. It's not going to look how you think it's going to. You got to hang in there. You got to see it through, have a level of grit and toughness. The people that are going to be the most successful are the ones that hang on when others let go.
That's great. That's great. Thanks, Martin. Aaron?
You're gonna make me follow Martin, huh? Okay.
And I gotta run. Sorry. I gotta run.
Bye, Martin.
Bye, Aaron.
I will first answer the question directly and give a little context to that, I guess. Why I love what I do is because I, in reflection, in my kind of time after college and figuring out what I wanted to be when I grew up, kind of had this aha moment of, looking back at my own experiences, how I thought I became who I am, what was most pivotal in becoming who I am. And it was a really critical time for girls and women in sport at the time that I was starting out, and to feel like for me to really make a difference and for me to be part of the student athlete experience that I felt so passionately about and did so much for me in my own growth as a person, as a leader, as a woman leader, that I felt it was going to take people like me and others who weren't the same people sitting around those tables making those decisions all the time for what the college student athlete experience would be and how it was prioritized and how we thought about it. So I knew I wanted to chart down this path of kind of being a voice that shaped the student athlete experience as I felt it should be for all who had that experience, regardless of whatever, category of person, sport, whatever it was that was part of that experience for them. And I guess why I wanted to go back a little bit from that is what was said earlier about, whether what you're majoring in college really doesn't matter, to how you're thinking about this experience for yourself is, I was an international business major in college. I played basketball while I was there. I thought I'd probably maybe go on to law school. So I was thinking about a completely different type of direction. And it was in my time in school where I really started to think about this other idea, but it still took me some time after graduating and graduating into a difficult job market and trying to figure out what my next steps were, that I had this reflection and really just went for it and pursued this thing that I felt was at my core, that I had passion for. And every day, even though, it has its moments, it's really challenging at times. And sometimes I question, like, what am I doing to myself? What always brings me back is that compass of why I do this and the student athletes and really that experience for them. And, those of us who do this out of that kind of purposeful mission of their educational experience and athletics being such a core part of that. So that's essentially why I do what I do, but like, don't be freaked out or panicked that you may not know exactly what it is right now. Cause I had no idea this is what I was going to be when I grew up. So.
And that's great. I want to say, just following you for years at the University of Chicago, you did an outstanding job there, and you're doing a great job at Harvard. And I do want to introduce our director of college counseling, who's a Harvard alum. So I wanted to connect you guys. He's on this call. So Peter.
Okay. Hi, Peter.
Great to have you here. And actually, the whole panel has been awesome tonight. It's just been, and I think everyone, whether they're interested in sports or not, should be watching the video of this, Ira. So we can talk about that after. But thank you all so much for being here. It's great to see y'all.
And thanks for the kind words, Ira.
Thanks. No problem. Alicia?
Sure. So the president of the Miami Heat, Pat Riley, has a quote. I'm not fully sure Pat Riley came up with this. He might have heard it somewhere else, but the quote goes, the sport industry is the toy box of life. And the point that he's trying to make is we're not curing cancer here. What we're trying to do is we're trying to bring joy and fun to people's lives. And to me, that's one of the best things about working in this industry. We've seen the important role sport has played over the last year amidst a global pandemic to bring a semblance of normalcy and joy back to people's lives. But to me, the best part about this industry is the people. So when I received the invitation from Ira, I looked to see who else was speaking, and two of my friends, Jock and Martin, were on the panel too. And I'm excited to get to know everybody else. But in this industry, I would say 99.5, maybe even 99.9% of the people are incredible. I've only worked in the industry for a decade. And in that period, I've only met about 4 people who were awful. If you want their names, I can tell you, but that's rare. That's so rare. There's so many people who are miserable in their jobs. And I don't know what it is about the sport industry, but people are awesome. And I feel like we have this collegiality where we're like, we're all in this together. We're working nights. We're working weekends. I'm not with my family on Christmas or Hanukkah or Passover. I'm with you. And so we all better be nice to each other and treat each other like family. And I think that's an incredible, incredible thing, and something that should attract some of you to want to pursue a career in this field. It's a very, very, very special place. And I miss being able to see people. I think that's been the hardest part about COVID is usually I'm on the road covering sporting events. You're seeing people on a near constant basis, and we've all been separated for about a year. So it'll be fun when we can break free from this. I'm in California, so we're still pretty much locked down, but it'd be nice when we can get loose.
Alicia, thanks for that. No, that was great. You've been great all night. And as a professor, if anyone out there, all of our students listening, Pepperdine is a great university. So if you're interested in going to the West Coast, Pepperdine is the place to be there in Malibu. Jock, any final words?
You know what? I'm going to take a Martin approach a little bit. I will say this. As you all are in your transformative years of high school, middle school, whatever it may be, right? Don't get so caught up with chasing something that you don't enjoy the moment. Time is precious. There's a lot of people that have invested so much time into you all, be it your grandparents, your parents, your friends, your aunts, your uncles. Enjoy the time that you have right now with your friends. Enjoy the time going to class. Enjoy the time playing sports. because I can promise you when you look back, these years and probably your college years are more than likely the best time of your life. And this time right now that you have is the last time you have to where you can truly just be a kid and enjoy it. So enjoy that. Don't get so caught up chasing tomorrow that you don't enjoy today. I just definitely wanted to say that as we keep going through. But why I love what I do, it's about being something bigger than you, right? Football changes every year. Sports change every year. Every year we have to regroup, recollect, and change our mission so we can go win and win at a high clip. So, and guess what? It doesn't take one person. Our head coach needs his whole coaching staff. Our GM needs his whole scouting staff. Our president needs a whole organization, right? Our quarterback needs his O-line so we can throw a play. Aaron Donald needs everybody next to him, rushing the right lane so he can go make a play. Like, it's the ultimate and consummate team sport. So just to be involved in that and always being something bigger than yourself is just a very gratifying feeling, right? Because teamwork makes the dream work. So why I enjoy what I do is that, be it be in football, be it be in sports in general, it's about being something, be a part of something bigger than yourself. And I truly enjoy that.
Thanks, Jack. Greg, any last words?
Yes, I'd love to echo those guys, their thoughts about enjoying what you're doing and enjoy your time in school. You got the rest of your life to work after college. You need to enjoy that time. The thing I love about what I do is I feel very fortunate that I feel like I get to make a difference for kids every day and our coaches every day. And part of the advice that I was given, and I didn't mention it earlier, is that you got to try to find purpose in what you're doing. And I know that sounds cliche and we throw that around all the time, but it's got to be more than just about you and about making money. I don't think you should ever apologize for wanting to make money. And I would argue, these guys might disagree with me, but I think the majority of the people that work in the sports world don't make millions and millions of dollars. We hear about those people at the top, but there's a lot of people that don't do that. It's got to be more than that. You got to be thinking about how can you make a difference? How can I choose what I love to do and still impact other people along that way? And I think the money and all the other stuff will eventually come your way, but that can't be your focus. Eventually find what you love to do. I didn't know what I was going to do until I was 24 years old. And I took a class in my graduate program that totally changed my life. I totally thought I was going one way. And just like it's been mentioned, I went in a totally different direction. You're going to have time to figure it out, but make sure that you're focused on how you can impact others in your journey. And that money stuff will take care of itself. I truly believe that.
Hey, Ira, can I say one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
I would be remiss during this pandemic that I would also say this after hearing Greg speak as well, right? One thing that you also need to do is take care of yourself. This has been a pandemic. It's been a long year. We've been thrown a loop. Things haven't been the norm. We live in the world now where, we have so many outlets to whether it's your parents, whether it's a psychologist, whether it's your support system, but make sure you have that support group because you're going to go through some hard times. Right. And having those people to lean on through those hard times and making sure that you're taken care of. Because one thing that I've learned is that self-care is one of the biggest proponents of being successful, is being able to check in with yourself, check in with others, and having those outlets to where you always know that you have what you need. But I just wanted to say, I wish that I would have known that at a younger age, is to look out for those outlets. It doesn't have to be a professional. Sometimes it's somebody just close to you, but always make sure you're checking on yourself and checking on others because your community that you have right now is all you're going to have, when you really need those times. So make sure you're doing that as well.
Great word there, John. John?
I'm going to say it's really about finding joy where you can. Part of the reason I was always attracted to coming over to Gulliver Prep, it was reminiscent from when I was growing up. I went to a school in Orlando called Lake Island Prep, and I was the first Black male to graduate that high school. The date isn't important, but what I learned was looking at the odds. I knew my career in athletics was going to end at the high school level, and that was fine. But what I did want to make sure is that I found something I enjoyed. And when it was over, that I could find something where I could give back. And what happens is, it's great. Get to attend Super Bowls, you go to NBA finals and all that. That sounds all well and good. but it's the smaller things that matter. We just put out the all county team. The number of people who give feedback for something like that. We have 5 different podcasts, and now we're putting it with Slam Radio, which is a bunch of high school kids who will be producing it. But getting them excited and getting them to help find their paths is just a lot more important and a lot more fun sometimes than dealing with the post-game locker room scene, because we get it and they're busy and they have their own things they have to get to, and they're required to answer, and they're very gracious. But sometimes there are people who really, really, really want to learn and share from it, and seeing that look and then watching them go on to bigger and better things is really a great thing to witness.
That's great, John. Our head of schools is on now, so I'm gonna give him a few words here. Frank Steele.
Not muted anymore. Good evening to all our panelists. Thank you so much. I was actually over on the YouTube feed and listening, and it was quiet in terms of other people sort of participating. So I came to the Zoom call. So I apologize for seeming to come in late, but I've been watching the whole evening, and you all are awesome. I wish I had gotten half of this advice anywhere between the ages of 18 and 40. You know, John, like you, I won't emphasize the which years which things happened, but I just wish all of our students have the opportunity to hear this from all of you. It's been fantastic. You're so insightful, so helpful, so direct. It's something that all kids should be hearing, and we're so appreciative of you joining us tonight. Thanks to Ira and Laz for putting this together, Heather as well, our athletic department looking out for our athletes. But again, these are messages that are universal, and all of our students should be hearing this. So we're already sort of behind the scenes figuring out how can we get some of this thinking and input to them who didn't get a chance to be on tonight. So long-winded, thank you very much to all of you for being here. We're so lucky to have you.
Thank you, Frank. We appreciate your leadership. And I want to obviously thank all of our coaches who jumped on, and all the other staff, see counselors and teachers and everyone who are a part of this. This made it special. I want to give a special thanks to our athletic staff, Heather and Laz, doing an outstanding job. This was a great night. I mean, I've been a part of a lot of these, and this one, it ranks right up there. It's great information. So the panelists, thank you. We'll be contacting you and following up. I'm sure some of our students will be following up with their great universities and great places that you work. So thank you, and have a great evening, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having us.
Take care.
Oh, great.